What do you think about big technical giants like Apple, Google, Facebook, and Amazon? Is it safe to invest in these stocks? Or if the US economy turns down, is there a risk of big losses? Yeah, that's a great question. It's a great question. So every company, almost every company on the planet, will be negatively impacted if the economy tanks. Right? And if anybody tells you this time it's different, they're wrong. It's never different. So what happens is economic cycles are usually about 10 years, right? Boom, bust, echo, rinse, lather, repeat. It always happens that way, about 10 years roughly. And you have to know where we are in the economic cycle. And so I humbly believe that right now, the economy's slowing, global economy. Things have been really, really good, relatively speaking, for the past 5 or 6 years or so. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to go into a recession. That's okay. It's just the way it is. And when we go into a recession, that gives the government the opportunity to cut interest rates to get us out of that recession. Then they raise interest rates when the economy is doing really, really well. So they have bullets in their chamber to fire when the economy is not doing as well. And so every company in the world almost gets hit hard when we have a recession. Right? We get multiple contraction, meaning the price earnings ratios go down for all these companies. And it's a great time to buy stocks because America and the rest of the world is on sale during recessions a lot of the time. So yes, I think we're going to enter one soon. And yes, I think all those tech companies you mentioned will be adversely impacted. Almost every company will, except maybe Barrick Gold, ticker ABX, or other gold companies, because gold kind of has an inverse ratio thought process, so to speak, when the economy turns. People usually like to buy gold. And that happened in 2008. I owned a lot of gold. GLD was the ticker of the ETF in 2008, because that was one of the only things that did well. Other stocks that can kind of do well in a recession are anything with a high dividend yield, which is a consumer staple, meaning it's something you can't live without, like food. CPB, Campbell's Soup. Soup is good food, but has a nice dividend yield. And that type of company will tend to outperform when we're in a recession. And it's nice to have that dividend yield as well. And so in terms of the other companies, I don't give my thoughts on individual investments. I talk higher level, and because I think it's my job to teach you all how to fish humbly instead of just giving you a fish. But in terms of, I'll go through them one by one, really high level though, just for fun. So thoughts on Apple. Okay, so I don't think Apple has done anything innovative since Steve Jobs, God bless him, has passed away. And I never invest in companies when all the founders are gone. I just don't. I mean, think about it. And I'm a very, very long-term investor, very long-term. But if you think about it, since Steve Jobs, God bless him, passed away, what has Apple done? They've made a bigger iPhone, a smaller iPad, a bigger iPad. They've made a watch. This is half the price Fitbit, which I love. They made a watch which not many people are buying. And we know that because of market signaling, because they don't tell us, they don't brag, they don't chest pound about how many watches they've sold like they used to do with the iPhone. So they haven't done anything really, really innovative. I love the products, I use them, but I'm not a long-term investor in Apple. I'm just not. And plus, everybody owns the stock, right? So who's the incremental investor, right? Why do stocks go up? A lot of times it's because more people want to buy that stock. It pushes it higher. But if everybody owns that stock, who's the incremental investor to push it higher? There's not that many. So with Apple, I'm just not. Maybe I'd rent it, so to speak. I hate to use that term. I'm sorry. If it crashes for some crazy reason, it becomes a broken stock, but not a broken company. All right. So anyway, those are my humble thoughts on Apple. And you always want to buy stocks that people are going to like. You never want to buy any investment class that everybody loves, because what pushes that investment idea up is other people buying at a higher price. If everybody owns it, there's not that many incremental investors. And so you want to be like Wayne Gretzky, who's the greatest hockey player ever, Canadian represent. But Wayne Gretzky was very successful and humble too. But he said he was very successful when asked because he never skated to where the puck is. Rather, he skated to where the puck is going to be. And by the same token, I want us all to invest in stocks that people are going to like, or start businesses that people are going to like. Like I'm a teacher right now online, and people think I'm crazy. I have venture capitalists calling me and hedge funds calling me saying, "Hey, we have a position. Do you want to come back?" And no, they don't get it. I love teaching. It's my passion. And once everybody is teaching online, then it's too late. It's too late. So anyway, I like to take the road less traveled. All right, next up, you asked me about Google, thoughts on Google. I mean, Larry and Sergey are still there. They're still engaged. They're not really running the show, but they're involved. But I like Google longer term. I think it's an ethical company as well. I think Apple's ethical as well. I don't think Facebook is. You asked about that next. But I think Apple is ethical, relatively speaking. I think Google is ethical. I remember in their 2004 IPO prospectus book, before they went public, I remember reading it, and it said, "Don't be evil" or "Do not be evil" was one of their mottos, whatever. I think they're good. I think they're good. I respect them. I respect Google. Now, when it comes to Google longer term, I think we're going to see incredibly innovative things coming out of Google. And what I love about Google is just the flexibility that the employees have there. 1 out of every 5 days, you're allowed to work on a pet project if you're an engineer in many departments. And that's where Gmail came out of. That's where Google Labs came out of. These products that are in beta for far too long, they come out of departments where people are given the leeway to kind of manage themselves. 1 day off a week to create a new pet project. How fun is that? How fun is that? So I think Google is going to do incredible things longer term. I think we're just scratching the surface. And I think Google is going to be a bigger market cap one day than Amazon. All right, next up, you're asked about Facebook. I just don't trust Facebook. I never have. I never have. I think Facebook is going to go into secular decline. I think Mark Zuckerberg is a wonderful manager. I think he's obviously the right person to run that company. He's very successful, but I just don't trust the brand. And my kids will never use it because it's for old people, right? And I've stopped posting. I post maybe once a year, whatever. And it's really weird because a lot of people get depressed when they go to Facebook. They get depressed not just because of the privacy issues, but they get depressed because all people post about on Facebook is great things. Like, look at me, I came first in this race, or I'm on vacation, we're all happy. And it's kind of an artificial existence. It's artificial. And when people look at it, they're like, oh my God, everybody's so happy. Oh, I feel depressed. Because a lot of people are insecure. I used to be that way too. But anyway, it's interesting how people get depressed after they use Facebook. And in 5 years, I think fewer people are going to use Facebook because the younger generation just they won't go after that. It's old, man. It's like old school stuff. So anyway, I'm not a fan longer term. I've gone to their headquarters here, and I've gone to all these headquarters. And it's really interesting when you go to Facebook's headquarters. It's really, really artificial. It's like, I don't know if you've ever gone to Disneyland in Southern California, but there's this one part of Disneyland called It's a Small World After All. And there's all these stores in Disneyland as well that were they're not real, right? They kind of created a little village, right? Like a souvenir places, food places, that sort of thing. You can get this butter beer stuff, Harry Potter, which I have with my kids, actually pretty good. But when you go to Facebook's headquarters here in the Bay Area, you walk in, and because it's so far removed from other tech companies, just geographically speaking, they have all these stores they created. A laundromat. There's obviously many coffee shops and lots of other stores as well within Facebook's headquarters in their citadel there. And it just feels kind of fake to me. It's cool. I guess they want people to work longer hours. I have friends that work there. They're great people, but I just don't trust. I just don't trust the brand. And then you asked here about. I think you asked about Amazon as well. Yeah. So I love Amazon. I think that. So I've been a shareholder in Amazon for years and years and years. And I remember when I worked in the hedge fund industry, people would say to me, "You're crazy. That's over 100 times earnings." And then a rookie mistake in the hedge fund industry is to short Amazon. We call that a widow maker. Kind of a harsh term, sorry. But you never want to short a company, meaning bet against it because it's expensive this year. This year doesn't matter, man. 5 years from now matters. And I used to own LinkedIn, and it broke my heart when Microsoft bought them because I loved investing in that company. But I owned LinkedIn, and people would tell me for years, "Chris, you're crazy. You're crazy." I mean, this company trades at over 100 times earnings. And I would say, no, you're wrong, man. It actually trades at 5 times earnings. They're like, what? It trades at 5 times my earnings estimates in 5 years. That's pretty damn cheap. And so I would always build up my own financial models that way. So as you all know, I love to look out longer term. But when it comes to Amazon, I mean, Jeff Bezos runs that company brilliantly. He does a couple things. Number one, he never allows any meeting to take place that requires more than 2 pizzas. It's called the 2 pizza rule. Because if you have too many people in the same room, stuff doesn't get done. And you know exactly what I mean. That's why I love companies I start to be very, very small. I think small groups of people can change the world. Too many people in a room, it becomes the government. Stuff doesn't get done. You've all experienced this at work and at school as well. And what Jeff Bezos also does is, and you all know that I am very passionate about goal setting. I can't find my goal setting book, it's here somewhere. But what Amazon does, Jeff Bezos does, is he has all of his product managers, whether they work on Kindle, Amazon Web Services, Prime, etc. He has them all write a press release today that's going to be released 1 year in the future. He does that so that your goals are written down. You have to make that press release 1 year in the future a reality by filling in the gap. He's very long-term focused. He doesn't care about Wall Street. He doesn't care, right? Like Jeff Bezos never gets on the quarterly call. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. And I love that about him. He's long-term focused, very long-term focused. And incidentally, Jeff Bezos only has meetings in the mornings, right? Himself at least. Right? And what he would do is he would actually cook breakfast every day for his kids. Then he would go to the office, and around 10 a.m. he'd have his most important meeting because he was fresh, kind of like we are right now. You know, I'm fresh right now. I could never do this late at night. I wouldn't be as fresh as I am right now. And so it's kind of an interesting best practice that Jeff Bezos has. Amazon is the most important software company that has ever existed and ever will exist, I think, because of Amazon Web Services. And the reason interest rates are low globally today is because of Amazon Web Services. If you're interested in more details on that, I can talk about that in more detail. Thank you.